Okay, so before we start today, I'm going to give you a trigger overview. Today is meant to be triggering, but you may find some of it triggering. So if you're worried about being triggered, feel free to leave now. Okay, so welcome to tonight's workshop. Tonight's workshop is about anxiety and the inner child and how inner child healing can help us to overcome anxiety. So the agenda for today, we're going to be talking about what anxiety is, going to be talking about what causes anxiety, going to talk a little bit about toxic shame, shame-based feelings, how inner child healing can help to reduce anxiety. We're going to have a little hypnosis session to end. So have you ever attended one of my workshops before? Whilst we're waiting for more people to join, just let me know in the chat box if you've ever attended one of my workshops before. First time? Excellent. Okay, so what is anxiety? Anxiety is part of the fight or flight response. We need anxiety to keep us safe. We can never completely eliminate anxiety from our lives. So there's energy to either fight or run away. So when we experience anxiety, some of the symptoms, such as the increased heart rate, gets the blood flowing around our body, gets oxygen delivered to our muscles. You may experience a loss of appetite. Again, if you are in a life or death situation, the last thing you're going to want to do is eat. So people who suffer anxiety often have a loss of appetite. You also sweat in preparation for the physical activity that your mind perceives is coming. So we can never completely eliminate it from our lives, but through hypnosis and through inner child healing, we can stop it from negatively affecting us. So anxiety and the inner child. So a child needs to feel unconditionally loved. They need to feel accepted. But many of us don't feel unconditionally loved or unconditionally accepted when we're children. Most parents only unconditional acceptance. So when we grow up in such an environment, we may need to take on family roles as a way to matter within the family unit. So these family roles could cause us to become people pleasers, codependent. It could cause us to be perfectionists. In an extremely narcissistic family is, common for parents to idealize one child, to, try and live their childhood through that child, to push that child. So that child's likely to become a perfectionist, a super achiever, and then they're going to have another child that they're going to devalue. And that child is either going to become the black sheep or the scapegoat. So they're going to project all of their own negativity, all of their own insight onto that child. So when we only receive conditional love and conditional acceptance from our caregivers, it can cause us to develop a state of constant unease. So when a child grows up in such an environment, they learn that happiness is no longer inside of them. They need to look outside of themselves to find happiness. They need to look outside of themselves to feel okay. So they can grow up with a constant state of uneasiness, feeling like there's always something wrong with them. And by fulfilling these family roles, into adult life, they're able to maintain that feeling of okay, of suppressing the toxic shame, which I'm going to come to in a moment. So does anyone have any questions with anything I've spoken about so far? Did you feel loved and accepted as a child? Let me know in the chat box. Many of you are saying no. Yeah. Again, anxiety can also be a triggered response. So if you're growing up in an environment where there's a lot of violence, you're in a constant state of fight or flight. There was a Russian physiologist called Ivan Pavlov, and he wanted to do some research into dog saliva. So he got some dogs and he tied them up, and he set a bell, an alarm, to remind him to feed these dogs. He'd spray meat powder into their face. And after a while, he started to realize that the dogs were salivating on the sound of the bell. He didn't need to spray the meat powder into their faces. And this is what's known as a conditioned response. So we can become conditioned if we're growing up in an environment, or if we're just in an environment where there's a lot of danger constantly, we can become conditioned to suffer anxiety, the slightest little trigger, the slightest little thing that causes us to flash back to those old memories. Yep. Still people turning up. So many children grow up with extreme dysfunction and abuse. When we grow up in such an environment, we can become hypervigilant, and we can develop a fear that everything is going to go wrong. So we take on a very negative mindset. Many people become obsessed with what could go wrong. They live in a constant state of anxiety. Children who grow up with dysfunction need to take on a negative perspective of the world to keep them safe. So they always need to be looking for danger. They always need to be hypervigilant. But this negative worldview and hypervigilance, although it helps children growing up in dysfunction to survive, once they become adults and move out of such an environment, it can become debilitating, and it may continue, long into their adult lives. many continue to live in a constant state of anxiety. Something else that we may suffer if we grow up in such an environment is a negative inner voice, an inner critic, where we have internalized the abusive parent. We've taken on what the abusive parent has, called us, treated us, and we continue to attack ourselves in the same way as adults. This can obviously also cause us to feel like we're not good enough, like things are going to go wrong, like we're going to mess everything up. And this can cause us to live in a constant state of anxiety as well. So did you grow up with extreme dysfunction? Let me know in the chat box if you grew up with a lot of dysfunction, maybe narcissistic parents, maybe physically abusive parents. Yep. So many of you did. Yes. So, as I said previously, when we grow up in this environment, we're going to develop lots of insecurities, lots of triggers. Dysfunctional parents and dysfunctional families, they often think it's funny to put each other down, to point out, things that we're not good at. So this can create insecurities where we don't feel good enough. We feel inferior or inadequate, uncertain about what's going to happen, what's going to go on in the world. And these insecurities are going to make us feel anxious. They're going to make us feel anxious about our abilities to get our needs met. They're going to make us feel anxious when we need to ask someone for something. They're going to make us feel anxious about being able to achieve our goals and our environment. If we have insecurities, we're going to be easily triggered. We will worry that other people won't accept us. We're going to become paranoid that other people hold negative views about us, talk about us behind our back. And all this is going to lead to a lot of paranoia, a lot of insecure feelings, a lot of anxious feelings. Yeah, so it's also very common when we grow up with dysfunction, when we grow up with narcissism and abuse. There's a phenomenon called attractions of deprivation. So we are growing up in an environment where we're learning to interact and to feel comfortable with narcissistic and abusive people. And then once we look to form interpersonal relationships, we're going to be attracted to people who display those same traits as our parents did. So this is partly because that's how we learn to feel comfortable, and that's how we learn to interact with people. It's also because we are going to have those childhood wounds that we're going to be looking to heal from our adult relationship. Again, many children don't think it's that bad. We're told, society teaches us not to badmouth our parents, to respect our parents. Children look to their parents to help them understand the world and themselves, and they internalize the abuse. They feel it's, means there's something wrong with them. And it's also just how, as I said previously, how they learn to interact. So they don't see, anything different until, they get into, usually, well, for me, certainly it was until I got married and, started having relationships as an adult. So do you know what your triggers are? Do you have triggers? Do you know what they are? When do you feel yourself getting most triggered? When are you most anxious? When are you calmest? Let me know in the chat box. Hello to the people watching on YouTube. Yeah, meeting new people. Yep, see through the games people play. I mean, the other thing is that when we grow up with dysfunction, we can project past experiences onto present situations. So sometimes we may see people playing games, and it may be a projection of our past experiences. Not saying that that's what's happening for you, but you know, it is sometimes a possibility. When your security is threatened, when you're being told, we can develop a distrust of authority, can have issues with authority figures. It doesn't necessarily need to be from our parents. It could be from school that we, you know, experienced issues with teachers, which causes us to distrust authority. Could also be, you know, bullying from other children, which will cause us to experience social anxiety, fear of meeting new people, as you say. Yep, unreliable people. Again, you know, a child needs to know they're going to get their needs met. As I said previously, you're reliant on your parents. So if, you know, many dysfunctional parents are unreliable, and we develop the belief that we can't get our needs met. So then when we meet unreliable people as adults, it can be triggering for us. You know, when you're a child, unreliable parents would have been life-threatening. Most anxious in relationships. Again, you know, when we grow up with dysfunction, if we don't form a good attachment with our parents, you know, when we get into that fear of being abandoned, that fear of being let down, and we're going to recreate that trauma. We may become controlling, you know, fearful of being left alone. Obviously, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in our relationships. Yep, sharing opinions, being seen and heard. Again, that can come from being put down, being shamed when you have opinions, being told that children should be seen and not heard. Yep, around big groups. Triggered by your partner's tone of voice. Yeah, when people used to be nice to me, that used to be when I'd get most triggered. When people were nice to me, that would be when I would react very bad. Yep, interacting with older people, this is a common one. See agendas. Yep. People are controlling and competing all the time. Okay. So, healthy shame. So, Erik Erikson said that shame is part of psychosocial development. In the first stages of our development, we needed to trust our caregivers. We needed to know we could rely on our caregivers to get our needs met. And we needed healthy shame so that we could start to move away from them, start to separate ourselves from them. Shame stopped us from venturing too far before we were ready. As adults, shame helps us function in society, lets us know when we need help, lets us know when we're violating other people's boundaries. So when a child grows up with dysfunction, they're going to, as I say, internalize that dysfunction, think it means there's something wrong with them. This is going to create toxic shame. So when parents or teachers criticize the child rather than poor behavior, they plant the seed of toxic shame. So, an example of this would be if a child makes a mess, as opposed to criticizing the child for making a mess, parent may call them a messy child. So when we over-identify, when we identify with shame-based models, the abandonment, trauma, and negative memories, this is going to create toxic shame. And toxic shame is going to create shame-bound feelings. So when we grow up with toxic shame, it's going to make us feel ashamed of how we feel. So when we feel angry, assertive, sad, fearful, sexual, or even joyous, it's going to bring up this toxic shame. And we're going to get, very bad feelings, very negative feelings. We may experience an emotional flashback whereby we'll react, maybe, violently. Certainly in the past, I've been very verbally violent when, things were triggered within me. So with this toxic shame, we become cut off from vital parts of ourselves, and these disowned parts can become project onto others. So to become whole, we need to accept these parts. We need to realize that no one is broken, that every part of us has value and needs to be accepted. As I said, it's the same with anxiety. Anxiety is trying to serve a purpose. It's trying to allow you to either fight or run away. So Carl Jung said, what resists not only persists, but grows stronger. So when you feel anxious, if you try and fight it, it's going to get stronger. If you're able to be mindful, just notice it and see what it's trying to tell you, you'll find that it starts to decrease. Same with all feelings, all kind of, as I said, anger. Many of us get shamed out of anger when we're very young, when we're toddlers, terrible twos. Many children get shamed out of getting angry. And this is a very bad emotion to be shamed out of, because without anger, you're going to take on more and more toxic shame. You're going to be unable to identify, to defend yourself, and you're going to be unable to say no. But when do you feel calm? Let me know in the chat box what kind of things help you to feel calm. being alone, meditation, going for walks, cats, deep tissue massage, shopping. As I said previously, many people develop ways to try and cope with negative feelings. One of them is shopping. You know, a lot of people use substances and food to try and suppress negative feelings. And this obviously can have negative impacts on our lives. It's very good to get out in nature and, yep, to take a bath. Yet being with people who understand. Okay, so I'm going to show you some breathing exercises. First breathing exercise I'm going to show you is called box breathing. It involves breathing in for the count of 5, holding your breath for the count of 5, and then breathing out for the count of 5, and holding the space between breaths for the count of 5. So if you'd like to try that. Now, before you do that, you want to take a SUD score. So on a SUD scale of 1 to 10, 1 being perfectly calm, 10 being really anxious, where would you feel right now? And then start the breathing. When you breathe, you want to breathe all the way down into your stomach. So you want to really become aware of your stomach rising as you're breathing in and falling as you breathe out. So just trying that now. Breathing in for 5, holding your breath for 5, breathing out for 5, and holding the space between breaths for 5. Just try a couple of rounds of that. Breathing in for 5, holding your breath for 5, breathing out for 5, and holding the space between breaths for 5. And just notice if that SUD score goes down. Let me know in the chat box if that little exercise reduces your SUD score at all. Excellent. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. It's called 7-11 breathing. So 7-11 breathing involves breathing in for the count of 7 and breathing out for the count of 11. Now, if you've got breathing difficulties or lung issues, you can reduce the number down. You can breathe in for 9, breathe out for the count of, breathe in for 5, breathe out for the count of 9. Made me confused there. So just trying that now. Again, before you do any of these exercises, you want to take that SUD score on a scale of 1 to 10. You want to breathe all the way into your stomach. Just trying that now. Breathing in for 7, breathing out for 11. You notice any improvement from that, let me know in the chat box. Now on the side of the hand, there's a pressure point. Comes from Chinese medicine. Chinese believe in qi energy, and they believe that if the qi is blocked, creates bad feeling. So one pressure point is on the side of the hand. You can just rub that. That can be a very discreet way to start to relax a little. Also between the little finger and the ring finger, in between the tendons there, the point there that you can rub. Again, another discreet way to relax and calm down. So does anyone have any questions with regards to anything I just shared? Let me know in the chat box. You can rub either hand. Either hand's fine. Another thing we can do, people find chewing gum helps to relieve stress, relieve anxiety. Again, another theory for this is that anxiety is part of the fight or flight response. And if you were being chased by a lion or a tiger, you wouldn't have time to stop and chat. So by chewing, we can trick our mind into believing there's no immediate danger, and that can help to reduce anxiety, reduce stress, improve focus. And this has been scientifically proven. How does the breath exercise work? Can I explain? The box breathing is about being more mindful. It's about focusing on the breath, into the present. Lao Tzu allegedly said that depression is living in the past, anxiety is living in the future, and peace is living in the present. So the box breathing helps to bring you more into the present. And the 7-11 breathing, if you were in a state of danger, you wouldn't be breathing out for longer than you're breathing in. So by elongating the out breath, you can once again trigger that relaxation response. So to the presentation. So as I said, when we grow up with dysfunction, we can take on toxic shame. And this toxic shame can cause us to act out, to become narcissistic, or it can cause us to act in. It can cause us to self-harm, can cause us to become a compulsive shopper, can cause us to do unhealthy things to try and suppress it. So John Bradshaw said that shame is the effect which is the source of many complex and disturbing states: depression, alienation, self-doubt, isolation, loneliness, paranoid and schizoid phenomena, compulsive disorders, splitting of the self, perfectionism, a deep sense of inferiority, inadequacy, or failure. It can also lead to personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. These are all caused by extreme abuse, growing up with extreme dysfunction. The child, needs to find a way to cope with that abuse and dysfunction. So they take on these unhealthy coping mechanisms. And in the case of narcissism, they take on a mask, a shell. And they maintain that shell by acting out, by being abusive to others. So anxiety can also be caused by growing up around someone who has anxiety. So until the age of 7 is known as the imprint period. It's in this age range that our neuroplasticity is at its highest. Children are looking to their parents to understand the world and understand themselves. So if we're growing up around a parent who's always anxious, always depressed, we're going to pick up on that. We're going to adopt the belief that the world's not a safe place. And we're going to adopt that anxiety and depression. People with anxiety also often suffer with depression. My belief on this is because the people with anxiety tend to isolate themselves. They tend to have a reduced social circle, a reduced support network. They're not interacting with the most functional of people, and this then leads to depression and issues with feeling depressed. So did you grow up with an anxious parent? Let me know in the chat box if either of your parents were anxious. Again, as I said previously, people with personality disorders, people who are narcissistic, they often have anxiety issues. Yep. Yep. Everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. I don't give these workshops, these presentations to put down my own parents or, anyone else's. Everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. We don't learn from the past. We're destined to reenact it. If we don't resolve our trauma, we're either going to find new people to inflict the trauma on us, or we're going to inflict it on others. So to prevent reenactment, we need to fully accept ourselves. We need to integrate our emotions. We need to become comfortable with our emotions and our projected paths. So starting on the 8th of January, of 4 group coaching sessions. All the sessions are recorded. So if you miss a session, you can watch back the video. You can also download the videos to watch them back at a later date. I have a Facebook group where I put lots of content to help with negative self-talk, emotional eating, anxiety. There's weekly exercises and a workbook that I update weekly. We're going to be looking to integrate all ages of the inner child, from infant to adolescent. Doing this kind of work can reduce anxiety, increase self-esteem and confidence, can help us to give ourselves the self-love that we never had as children, to give ourselves the unconditional acceptance that we never had as children, to control our impulses and reconnect with our emotions, as I say. So the usual price of this program is £199. Right now, it's on sale on my website, and in a moment, I will share a link with you where you can sign up for that at the sale price. There's only a couple of spaces left on the next program, but I do have one that will be starting in February. So if you'd like to know more about that, you can book a call with me via the first link. The second link, you can find the Inner Child program. You can sign up for it there. The third link is for my Facebook group. And in my Facebook group, that's my free Facebook group. In there, I've put lots of videos, again, to help with anxiety. You can also find recordings of these workshops. So, people who've done the program previously, given excellent feedback. And you can see some of that there. So, question, who wants to try some hypnosis? Let me know in the chat box if you want to try some hypnosis. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to get some more water. Yes. Have you ever tried hypnosis before? Let me know in the chat box if you've ever tried hypnosis before. Just letting more people in. Check in on YouTube. Lots of times. So RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. So I'm going to do some exercises to show you the power of your mind. Your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So one of the benefits of hypnosis is by envisaging ourselves the way we want to be, we can actually start to become that person and actually form new neural pathways in the brain. So what I'd like you to do first of all is hold your hands out in front of you like so, and then take your left hand and turn it with your palm facing up, and keep your right hand with your palm facing down. I'd like you to imagine taking a deep breath in, closing your eyes, and just imagine that in your left hand we've placed some heavy leather-bound books, and those books are taking that left hand lower. That left hand is lowering them. To your right hand we've tied some helium balloons. Those helium balloons are floating. So the left hand's lowering down, the right hand's rising. Just imagine that now. The left hand is drifting down as the right hand drifts. That's. And then leaving those hands where they are, open your eyes. Just see how much difference there is between those hands. If you've got a big difference between those hands, let me know in the chat. Fantastic. Suggestion, yes, and the power of your imagination as well. Sometimes people say that when they do this, they feel their left hand starts to hurt, like it's been actually holding those heavy books. Okay, so another exercise. Once again, taking a deep breath in. As you breathe out, just allowing your eyes to close. With your eyes closed, I'd like you to imagine that you're walking in to your kitchen. And there on the side is a nice, juicy citrus. Could be a lemon or orange. Some people imagine a grapefruit, others a lime. Just imagine safely picking up that fruit, sniffing it, just sniffing it and smelling those citrusy smells. And then safely and securely placing it on a cutting board. And then safely and securely taking a knife and cutting into that fruit. As you're cutting into it, those juices are squirting out, flowing down onto the cutting board. Those citrusy smells are filling the air. Imagine that happening. And then cutting into it again. Again, creating a nice bite-sized wedge. You're lifting up that piece to your face and you're biting down. As you're biting down on it, those citrusy flavors are filling your mouth. Those juices are flowing out and running down and dripping off your cheek. Then when you're ready, just open your eyes, come back to the present. Let me know if that exercise made your mouth water. Let me know in the chat box. Yes. Excellent. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so now we're going to do some hypnosis. So hypnosis isn't something that I do to you, it's something that I do with you, something that I do with your cooperation. If you're driving, Gina, leave now. If you're not driving, make yourself comfortable. Sit back in your chair, maybe put your feet firmly on the ground. If you're wearing shoes, maybe you'd like to take them off. Take a deep breath in, again, breathing all the way down into your stomach. As you breathe out, just allowing your eyes to close. With your eyes closed, you can allow yourself to begin to relax even. On that breath, noticing the air flowing in through the tip of your nose, going all the way down into your stomach, then coming back up, coming out through your nose. If any thoughts come into your mind, you can just notice and allow your attention to return to that. Breathing deep. Seeing if you can notice yourself becoming more relaxed with the in-breath or the out-breath. Maybe becoming more relaxed with my words or spaces between my words. The tiny muscles in your forehead. That relaxation flows down into your eyes and your eyelids, down into your cheeks, and your jaw, flowing down your neck, into your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands. Going all the way down your body, like a wave of relaxation. Becoming aware of yourself supported. Allowing your unconscious mind to begin to take control. The unconscious is always there, always looking to protect you, keep you safe. If you've ever watched a child learning to walk, notice that they start to crawl. When they're strong enough, they put themselves up, push themselves up on furniture. Take those first steps, placing one foot in front of the other. And they know just when to let go. Actively keep their hands either out in front of them, above their head to catch them if they. The unconscious is always there looking to keep you. So just trusting that part of you now. In a moment, I'd like you to imagine standing elevator. In this elevator, there are 3 buttons. The first button is going to allow you to increase that relaxation. The second button is going to double that relaxation. The third button is going to take you all the way down to the very depths of relaxing. When those elevator doors open, you're going to find yourself in a special place. It could be a beach, a meadow, somewhere special to you, somewhere where you can relax, let go. Just pressing that first button, increasing that relaxation. And the second button. As a person starts to enter a state of hypnosis, a state in which positive change can occur, they can become aware of things. You can notice that tiny muscles in their arms and legs may begin to twitch. They release any tension. And then pressing the third button, going all the way down, stepping out into that place. The weather is just the way you like. Maybe the sun is shining. There's no one else around. It's only in that place. You can find a place to lie down and relax, looking up at the big blue sky, fluffy clouds floating across them. Each cloud that drifts off over the horizon, you can become calmer, more relaxed. And then drifting, dreaming, you notice another cloud drifting towards you. This cloud's a special cloud. You feel a connection with this cloud in some way. Maybe you can imagine it being drawn towards you. Lines or threads connecting you to this. And this cloud can start to draw up any negative feelings, anything you want to let go of is being released into this cloud. Cloud's getting darker, angrier, taking more and more of that stuff. You're releasing, maybe getting a sign from unconscious mind. It could be a twitch of a finger or thumb. It could be a feeling warm, increasing relaxation. More and more stuff is drawn up into that cloud. Nice. And that cloud taking with it that old stuff. Those lines and threads can begin to break. So it moves out over the sea, releases that stuff into the ocean. It can be diluted, washed away. Maybe you can start to consider new ways that you can start to enjoy your life, feeling calmer, more relaxed. Maybe situations where you'd like to be more confident, more assertive. Consider how you'll be interacting with people, how you'll be standing, how you'll feel. Really connect with that future version. See through their eyes. Feel what you feel. Nice. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And when I reach the number 5, you can open your eyes, coming all the way back to the present, noticing how good you feel. 1, allowing the feeling to return to your feet. Maybe you'd like to wiggle those toes. 2, as that energy flows up your legs. 3, flowing up your body. 4, down your arms, into your hands. And on the next number, you can come all the way back to the present, noticing how good you feel. 5, eyes open, wide awake. Let me know in the chat box if you liked that little hypnosis session. Once again, there are the links. Thank you, Alina. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Frank. Fantastic. If you want to book a call with me, Sanjay, we'll see if we can help you manifest a girlfriend. You can book a call with me via the first link, which is my website URL, anxietyhypnotherapist.org/free-session. And you can book a 1-hour call with me there for everyone who attends these workshops. Free 1-hour call. You can use that to discuss anything you want. Could be anxiety, could be inner child issues. As I said, the second link is for my 4-week inner child program, which starts on the 8th of January. And you can currently get it for the sale price of £99. And then also have another program which will be starting in February. And if you want to book a call with me to discuss that, give you a special price on that. The final link is for my Facebook group, where you can find lots of free resources. So does anyone have any questions for me with regards to anything that I've covered today? Please let me know in the chat box if there's any questions, anything you'd like to ask. Yes, absolutely, Eleanor. Yes, it is possible to overcome things permanently. Absolutely. I have many clients who have. You can find you can find reviews on my website. You can find testimonials on my website, reviews on my Google My Business page, my Facebook page, lots and lots of reviews, lots of people who've had long-lasting effects. So, yep, absolutely. It depends on the issue. Some issues take more than one session. Personally, I used to suffer with very bad anxiety, probably quite bad issues. My ex-wife would tell you I was a narcissist. She'd probably tell you I still am. And I was able to overcome that stuff with hypnosis. So I consider it to be extremely effective. Yes. Is there a link between hypnotherapy and NLP? Yep, NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It was developed by two men called Richard Bandler and John Grinder, I believe. They wanted to develop a therapy modality, the best therapy modality they could. So they looked at the leading therapists of the time. They were Virginia Satir, who was a family therapist, Milton Erickson, who was a hypnotherapist, and Fritz Perls, I believe, from transactional analysis. And they took what they considered to be the best elements of these things, and they developed NLP. So NLP is very similar to hypnotherapy. Yes, with hypnotherapy, generally, we're trying to take people into a deeper trance. Thank you, Scarlett. Any other questions? Anything else anyone would like to know? Okay, so if no one has any other questions, I will say thank you. Thank you to everyone for joining me. I hope you found this workshop useful, and Happy New Year. Absolutely. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Again, check out the links that I shared with you, and yeah, have a great week. Check out my meetup group for future workshops, and I hope to see you all again. Thank you. Bye-bye. Happy New Year to you, Rachel. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.